So as for altering this neck pattern, the first thing you're going to consider is safety and comfort of the wearer, and second is going to be design. So find the closest size of the pattern that works for your wearer and then work from there. For alterations, if you put the neck pattern on and you're finding that it sits kind of too far this way and there's some gapping back here, you are going to have to add some seam allowance, either perhaps at the front center, both pieces, or at the back center where the zipper will go. When you're doing your final fittings, make sure you take the zipper width into consideration for the back piece. If you are adding a lining to this pattern, that will also create additional bulk and will affect the fit. I personally am not going to add a lining to this section as it can warp the fit and not make it lay so flat, but I will probably continue to line this section. This is a beaver fur and it will show wrinkles more than a teddy fur or a shag fur, so I might even add some spray-on interfacing to that, meaning I use a spray adhesive and put some stabilizer underneath. Next, I'm going to show you where you can create alterations and what those things will do. So starting at the front, the center seam line, this is going to determine how far in it will go into the front of the neck. If you make an alteration to this right at the bottom, like say you want to squeeze it in a bit, if you do so at the very bottom of this pattern, you're going to have to alter the chest pattern as well. So make sure those adjustments will be the same for both pieces. If you need to bring this line forward or back, that's going to be at the shoulder seam. And the back is going to be the easiest place to make adjustments since it's hidden. So let's start some alterations and see what that looks like. The front center of the neck is right here. When you're test fitting it, if you find that it's too bulky in this section, you can bring it in like so. If you find that it needs to come up further or go down, that will be this adjustment here to bring down or up. If you end up bringing this seam out, like you need to extend it farther out or in, you will have to also adjust the front of the chest right here as well and add or subtract length. This seam that goes around the neck from upwards is the neck's length. If the neck is too long, you can either bring this seam down or this seam up. It's going to be a lot easier to adjust this top seam though, so I highly recommend that. If you want to change the outer shape, that is going to be this line here on the front and this line here on the back. Let's move on to the side. So this is the shoulder seam. It sits slightly forward just for aesthetics. If you need to make it taller or shorter, you are going to adjust on these two pieces, E, up or down. Since the neck pattern also goes there, it will be E. If you need to add length to the top, it's going to be at D. This seam is going to be extremely variable based on what type of head you're using, the shape it is. One of the most common problems you may have is this circumference not matching the circumference of your head. So two things you can do to change that are to add fur extension to the head, where you taper the fur into a narrower circumference, or you can taper this out to a wider circumference. And that will be at this seam. I'm sorry. That will be at this seam, A to D, A to D, and D to G, D to G here. So what that would look like is creating a wider taper like so. And you would make sure that you create the same alteration on the front as well at the matching point. Now to make alterations on the back, take into consideration again the zipper, again any lining or bulk underneath. And you will modify G to H at the back and H to I on the back panel. If you bring it in, it's going to get narrower and tighter of a fit around the person's chest and back. And likewise, if you make that alteration at the neck. If you're using your muslin mock-up, you can wear it, pin it where it's comfortable on you, make a marking on the fabric, and then make adjustments to your paper pattern from there.